Welcome back. This month's story time here at the Auburn Avenue Research Library is highlighting and celebrating Women's History Month. This month, we're celebrating and exploring Black womanhood and highlighting the entrepreneurial journey of Madam C.J. Walker. As you know, reading takes you anywhere, beyond the pages, and exploring the life, legacy, and contributions of this phenomenal woman and catalyst for change. Born Sarah Breedlove, this individual, notably known as Madam C.J. Walker, is someone that is bound to inspire you. So be sure and enjoy our story time here at the Auburn Avenue Research Library. March is Women's History Month. How do you feel the Madam C.J. Walker Museum contributes and influences women's history?
The legacy of Madam C.J. Walker, and I'll have to expand on that. Madam C.J. Walker, Annie Turnbull Malone, and Sarah Spencer Washington. What those Negress women did in the early 1900s, I could never get enough alphabets behind my name to be able to explain the depth and the level of how their drive, activity, vision affects us today. There's just no way that I could explain it. It's just beyond my intellectual comprehension. I'm here because of what those women did. You know, and people focus on, regretfully, my primary concern, no, let me rephrase that. The African American community, for the most part, is keenly aware of her wealth. And that's problematic, because that's a pilgrim mindset, focusing on an individual's money. These women were race women. They fought on so many different fronts: anti-lynching campaigns, philanthropy. A lot of organizations that we just take for granted are in existence today because of what they did and how much they gave. So, you know, I know people get excited. You know, she's first Black female millionaire. Blah, blah, blah. You know, that's just not relevant. You know, yes, she was a millionaire. She was one of many Black women millionaires. The others basically were written out of history because of the architects of the Jim Crow laws did not want the world to know how successful these Negress women had become. And so the one name that pops out is Madam C.J. Walker. And after doing research, for me it's easy to see why she pops out, because she was like the Muhammad Ali of the beauty industry. She had the swag. I mean, if you look at her pictures and look up her quotes, because I've tried to find quotes for Annie Turnbull, who was really one of the premier beauty pioneers, the first to have a school of cosmetology, first Black global brand, but she was not quotable. And I've seen photographs of her, and she just looks, you know, this is the early 1900s. You know, so it was a very conservative time. And then you look at Madam C.J. Walker with her ride or die chicks in the car with her huge plume in the driver's seat. So that says everything about her personality and who she was and why we know so much about her now.
Well, looking forward to the investment of yours towards her history, how did you manifest the Madam C.J. Walker Museum into a reality? What support assisted you along that journey?
I'm trying to understand the question. So you're asking me how I stumbled onto this, or?
Yes. How did you manifest the museum into what it is today?
Okay, we'll take you all the way back. Well, not all the way back. We'll just take you part of the way back. As a hairstylist and a global artist, I used to work for manufacturers developing tools and cutting concepts for a variety of hair companies, as well as I had my own salon. I'm riding in Atlanta over 30-something years ago, my little convertible, and I just ended up on, I don't know how I ended up on Auburn. I'm just riding around. And I came up Auburn, and for some reason, I decided to turn on Hilliard, northbound, because I was headed westbound on Auburn, which is, this way. And then when I got to the light, I just turned the corner. So as I turned the corner, I'm driving, up towards Hilliard. But as I turned, I just happened to glance to the left, and I see Madam C.J. Walker. It feels like it's 30 years ago. I can remember seeing Madam C.J. Walker as I was driving. It was sort of like a blur. I slammed on my brakes, backed up, parked the car, got out of my car, walked over to the glass, and started touching the writing that you can tell by the type style and the coloring of the ink and the fade that it's authentic to an earlier period. So I would just come back and pay homage periodically, just out of respect to the legacy, knowing that, oh my God, this was an original Madame C.J. Walker beauty shop. It's still on the glass. And so I would just come back year after year, sometimes a few months, sometimes maybe a couple of years, praying that the copy was still on the window, the writing was still on the window. I was never interested at any point in being over here, because had you seen the area at the time, then my clientele was not about to park whatever they were driving over here, but I would just come back and pay homage. So, move up a little bit. About 20 years ago, I needed a new location for my salon. And I remembered this space. And I said, man, how interesting would it be to operate Ricci International, which was my trade name as a hairstylist. Operate Ricci International inside an original Madame C.J. Walker beauty shop. And so in my head, I'm envisioning it. And I said, yeah, let me go check this space. So I come over here. The space is available. I check with not that gentleman, not the barber that just left, but the barber who owns it, which is Mr. Johnson. Not Mr. Johnson, but Junior. And Junior's dad was working there. So I asked him, I said, well, how do I get access to information on the lease? So the Masons on the building, go upstairs, check with the Masons. So I check with the Masons give me the lease, I get the key, I walk in, the beauty tools behind your videographer were left in this space. Blow dryers from the 1940s, Marcel irons, pressing combs, a flat iron, and the original flat iron were called pullers. All this stuff was left in here. So I'm thinking, man, I've got to preserve this. I can't just operate my salon out of here. And then I started thinking about, I was working the whole process out in my head as I went along. So I started cleaning the shop. It looked nothing like this. And I said, okay, I'll back off Ricci. And I had a staff. But at that moment, when I came in, it felt like I had a spiritual obligation and a cultural obligation to preserve and promote this legacy and push this narrative forward. So I reduced my staff of my salon so that the integrity of the museum would never be compromised. So I was willing to take a financial hit.
Wow. Do you collaborate or are affiliated with the Madame C.J. Walker Archives or the family?
No, funny though, but my uncle, Uncle Vincent, who I love, was working with Alex Haley before Alex Haley died. And Alex Haley was starting on a Madame C.J. Walker story. And Mark was also connected with Alila Bundles, the great-great-granddaughter. So he put me in touch with her. So she's aware of what I'm doing, even though she's never been down here. And you know the movie launches March 20th. So we're going to have a screening here as well.
You're kidding.
No, I do not kid.
Well, amongst all your travels and your favorite places to live and work, why is it important to have a location here in the sweet Auburn district of Atlanta?
I mean, I can't speak on why it's important. Atlanta, and this corner, first of all, Atlanta, Georgia, or the King legacy has drawn attention to this area. But the reality is, this area created King. Even though King is the point person, the legacy built and created the Dr. King that we know. This intersection, first of all, Auburn Avenue is known for being a historical strip. John Wesley Dobbs coined it, Sweet Auburn Avenue, the richest Negro street in America, by Times Magazine in 1957. But because of my travel and background in fashion and design, I realized that Auburn Avenue strip was running parallel to the Harlem Renaissance, but we don't hear about it now. Harlem, New York is New York, so everybody knows New York. But this was taking place simultaneously with the Harlem Renaissance, the Atlanta Renaissance. So it's like the little baby brother or baby sister of the Harlem Renaissance.
Wow.
All of the things that we know about the Harlem Renaissance were taking place here.
Well, as you are preserving Madam C.J. Walker's history, you also among the WEARD.
WERD. So 2 years into the lease, I'm doing hair at my styling station where those vintage tools are. A black lady comes to the door, and she was a resident of Wheat Street Garden Apartments that were right across the street. She sticks her head in the door while I'm doing hair, and she says, "Mr. Ricci, did you know the first black radio station in America was upstairs?" I completely freaked out. I was in the middle of doing a client. I said, "I'm sorry, what did you say?" She said, "The first black," she said, "when I was a little girl, I could hear WERD's music spilling out of the window upstairs over your studio onto the street when I was going to school." And I said, "No ma'am, I had no idea. No one, the Masons didn't tell me, no one," and I started asking people around me, no one I knew. The people who knew WERD were the people who listened to WERD. And so I was excited to learn the legacy, and then I became enraged, really enraged. How in the hell did all the people that came before me not bother to preserve WERD? They didn't even put a Post-it note on the building and say, you know, this original black station was here from 1949 to 1968. I'm a flip note Jackson.
Well, lastly, what is next for you and the museum?
Oh, my, I don't even want to say desire. I am moving the museum in a different direction because everybody can't get into the studio. You know, we get a lot of visitors, you know, but the experience needs to be mobile. So I'm putting together and designing a traveling exhibition of the Madam C.J. Walker legacy connected to Sarah Spencer Washington and Annie Turnbull Malone, so that the globe will realize that it was not just one black woman. These black women built an empire, and they called themselves race women. And it's important to note that they had a business philosophy. Whether they made $1 or $1 million, it was $1 for myself, $1 for the cause, and $1 towards the business. With that philosophy, they were able to bring up a complete race of people and still become millionaires. So I want that to be, that legacy to be more the tip of the spear as opposed to the fact that they were millionaires. And the artistic way that I'm going to present this legacy, I think, is going to be appealing to young people, because coming up, when you're young and someone's talking to you about history, I mean, it can be flat or it can be exciting. And they will come to it if it's exciting. If it's flat, then you're trying to force this information inside of their head. You know, you have to create a scenario where they're coming to the history and grabbing and wanting more. And so I think that is pretty much my gift, is being able to put it together artistically with style, so that young people, because young people are really hardcore about style. The young market is very visual and very acoustic. So the other aspect of the traveling exhibition is people don't give thought to what was Turnbull listening to, what was Madam C.J. Walker listening to during the era. So my exhibit will have the artists of that era as the acoustic backdrop to the visuals.
I can't wait to see that manifest. Well, thank you. Oh my
You're very
goodness.
welcome.
Thank you. Is there anything that you'd like to share before we wrap up?
My social media information.
Go ahead.
www.madam, M-A-D-A-M, CJWalkerMuseum.com. That's the web address. And Instagram, it's WERD Studio ATL.